Welcome to our lesson on adding rational numbers. And please make sure you're on student handout number 4. There's another sheet that looks very similar. So we want to make sure we're on the same worksheet together. So we're being asked to jot down the process for adding fractions and decimals. And today we're just going to focus on the decimals. So if you recall, when we add or subtract decimals, we need to line up the decimal points and place values and if needed, we can insert zeros as placeholders. And we'll get to that in just a few minutes. These same blank apply to adding various types of rational numbers. So the same steps apply, and so we're going to write steps. So it turns out that when we're working with integers, that we're going to use the same steps whether we have integers or whether we have rational numbers, meaning fractions and decimals. And besides using our integer rules, we're also going to have to use the decimal rules. So we're going to be applying two different families of numbers. We're going to be applying their rules. So let's review now how we add integers. If the signs are the same, blank and use the same number. So if you recall, if the signs are the same, this is where we're going to add. The signs are the same, we add and use the same sign. So we're going to do 2 together, and I'm going to have you do the next 3. I see that these first 2 numbers are positive, and so I'm going to add their values. 7 plus 6 would be positive 13. And then the next example, I see that this is a negative number and this is a negative number, so they're the same sign, so I'm going to add their values. Their absolute values are together are 19, and I'm going to use the same sign, so it's negative 19. So I'd like you to complete the next 3, so pause the video and start up again after you've done that. So please check your answers and make corrections if needed. So the next part says, if the signs are blank, blank, and take the signs of the number with the greatest absolute value. So if the signs are different, get my marker back. So if signs are different, subtract and take the sign of the number with the greatest absolute value. So we're going to start with this first one. I'm going to go ahead and highlight to help myself. As long as I have my pen out, I'm going to highlight. And now we're going to do I'm going to do the first 2 together, and you're going to do the next 3 on your own. So when I have different signs, it said that I have to subtract. So I'm going to take the number with the highest absolute value, which is 10, and I'm going to take away the number with the lowest absolute value. If you think about this, I'd have 10 yellow chips, 10 positive chips, and 2 negative chips, and I'd be able to make 2 0 pairs. So I'd have 8 left over. And the number with the highest absolute value is positive, so it's a positive 8. In this next pair, the number furthest from 0, or the number with the most chips, would be negative 17. So I'm going to write that right now as just 17. And then it says I'm supposed to subtract. And the reason I'm subtracting is, again, we'd be able to make 8 0 pairs and pull them out. So this is 9, And you can see I have more leftover negative chips, or if you think about it, that's furthest from 0. So this answer would be -9. So I'd like you to pause again and finish the next 3. Okay, if you would once again check your answers and make corrections if needed. All right, so as you can see, we're going to be adding decimals now. And if you recall, we read this just a few minutes ago. If the signs are the same, add and use the same sign. So even though we're now working with decimals, that same rule or same step applied. So we're going to write add and use the same sign. So now our decimal rules come into play. You can see that these are both positive. So that's our integer rule that says we're going to add them because they're the same sign. And now we're going to go and we're going to add them. But what's important is I need to line up the decimal points. And we're adding because they're the same sign. So the tenths column is lined up, the decimal points are lined up, and the ones column is lined up. So this is 8. I drop down the decimal where it is, and 4 plus 6 is 10. So our answer is positive 10 and 8/10. So we're going to move over to the next set. I'm going to notice that the integer rule said that they're both the same sign. So once again, we're going to add. But I have to now use I also have to be aware that I'm going to use my decimal rules. So the decimal rules said that I need to line up the decimal points. And for right now, I'm going to use the absolute value. I'm just going to ignore the negative sign for right now, but I am adding. 8 plus 6 is 14. I can carry that across the decimal. I'm going to drop down the decimal so I don't forget. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. And now I go to my color, which reminds me that these are negative, and it's -3 and 4/10. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to try the next 3, and then watch the video, make corrections if needed. All right, after you've completed that, let's move forward. So it says if the signs are blank, blank and take the sign of the number with the greatest absolute value. So these are the integer rules, and if the signs are different, subtract and take the sign of the number with the greatest absolute value. In other words, furthest from 0. So I'm going to take a moment and go ahead and highlight my numbers, realizing that they are indeed different signs. And now I have to use my decimal rules that say I need to line up my decimal points and place value. So 10 and 7/10 is the number with the highest absolute value. I have to subtract 2 and 5/10. And when I do this, I get 8 and 5/10. 8 and 2/10. That's my error there. And now I look to see which number has the highest absolute value. Well, it's 10 and 7/10, so this is 8 and 2/10 is positive. So I'd like to try the third one over. So I'm going to highlight 9 and 0/10 in yellow because it's positive, and 7 and 4/10 in pink because it's negative. And the number with the highest absolute value is 9 and 0/10. I'm going to subtract since they're different signs, and I'm going to take away 7 and 4/10. Now in this case, I have to borrow. 0 minus 4, I need to borrow something from the tens column and the ones column in this case. And so I'm going to have 6. I drop down the decimal. 8 minus 7 is 1. So it is either positive 1.6 or negative 1.6, and it looks like 9 and 0/10 has the highest absolute value, so that means 1 and 6/10 is the answer, and it's positive. So please try the 3 that we haven't done together on your own. Pause this video and then start the video again when you're done to check your answers. All right, please check your answers, make the corrections if necessary. Make sure that your signs are also in the correct, are correct, and then please take the exit ticket. Thanks so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.